purposes only. It discusses real criminal events based on publicly available reports, news articles, and official statements. However, details Before we dive in, a quick disclaimer. This video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. It discusses real criminal events based on publicly available reports, news articles, and official statements. However, details may evolve as new information emerges, and I am not a legal expert or law enforcement official. Nothing in this content should be taken as any type of endorsement, glorification, or instruction on illegal activities. Pharmacy heists and drug diversion contribute to serious public health issues, including the opioid crisis that I am a product of, and we strongly condemn all forms of crime. If you're struggling with addiction or related issues, please seek help from professionals. Resources like Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. You can check out the SAMHSA hotline at 1-800-66-HELP. They are available 24/7. So welcome you guys to Pillage Pharmacies, the most prolific heist of the last decade. I'm your host, Christian Whitlow, and you're tuning in, from the VA or anywhere else, for that matter. Do me a favor, grab a seat, because we're about to embark on a gripping journey through the shadows of America's opioid-fueled underworld. So I want you guys to picture this. Dimly lit parking lots at 3 a.m., the hum of a distant highway, and a crew of shadows slipping through the night. Tools in hand, eyes on the prize. Over the last 10 years, from 2016 to 2026, pharmacy heists have transformed from opportunistic grabs to meticulously orchestrated symphonies of crime. And these aren't just thefts, they're tales of desperation, greed, and relentless pursuit of black market gold, controlled substances that fuel addictions and destroy lives. In this episode, we'll weave through the most prolific cases like a detective unraveling a cold case, and we'll meet the masterminds, feel the tension of the break-ins, and uncover the fallout that ripples through communities when this happens. Think of it as, a true crime podcast meets investigative journalism, with some twists that could rival any Hollywood thriller. If you've ever wondered how a single ring could hit over 200 spots across 31 states, or why one poor pharmacy in California became a thief's favorite punching bag, you're in the right place. So, we'll break it down chronologically, but with a narrative flair of a storyteller around a campfire. Except our flames are fueled by court documents, surveillance footage, and the stark reality of the opioid crisis. So, let's set the scene. First, back in the mid-2010s, pharmacy crimes were already a headache for law enforcement, like they had many years before. Robberies, those bold, armed, confrontational ones, hit a peak of 884 in 2017, according to DEA stats. But as security tightened with public buttons, time delay safes, and beefed up cameras, the numbers dipped around to 401 by 2020. Thieves adapted, though burglaries not as stealthy as they used to be, and there's hot spots all around the country like New York and California, where a 620% spike from 2021 to 2023 turned a quiet neighborhood into straight up crime scenes. The motive is always drugs, baby. Opioids like oxycodone, hydrocodone, and fetty, precursors, stimulants like Adderall, these aren't petty thefts. These are basically feeding black markets that have claimed over millions of lives in the U.S. And the opioid epidemic and the heist, they're the supply chain for destruction. And our story begins in the heart of Texas with what the DEA calls the largest pharmacy burglary ring in history. It's in 2021, the world was still reeling from COVID lockdowns. In Houston, a man named Keith Brown is plotting his empire. Brown wasn't new to this at all. He was a repeat felon with a rap sheet longer than a CVS receipt. But this time, he assembled a crew, like something out of Ocean's 11, only instead of casinos, they targeted mom and pop pharmacies, the ones you see on the side of the road across the heartland. So imagine a van pulling up into the dead of the night in rural Arkansas, and a team of scouts the roof, cuts a precise hole with power tools, drops in like ninjas, bypassing alarms that never even whimper. They head straight for the narcotics cabinet, sweeping up bottles of oxycodone and hydrocodone, 96,000 tablets in total across their spree, with a street value north of $12 million. And Brown himself was in the thick of it, logging at least 34 burglaries from July 2021 to November 2022. Their map of mayhem stretched across 31 states: Oklahoma's flatlands, Kansas's wheat fields, Georgia's humid nights, Florida's strip malls, Missouri's riversides, Illinois' prairies, you name it, they'd hit a pharmacy there. In one state, they fenced the goods in another and vanished into the interstate haze. It was a traveling circus, fueled by insider tips and black market buyers, desperate for the next fix. But every empire crumbles. Federal agents piecing together patterns from pharmacy reports and grainy security cams closed in. On November 2023, the first wave of arrests came, 18 suspects down, including their foot soldiers and the fences. They seized 11 firearms because, of course, guns were a part of the mix as well. 80,000 in cash, 500,000 in flashy custom jewelry that just screamed ill-gotten gains. The indictments kept coming, but by August 2024, 42 people had faced charges in Little Rock, Arkansas, a hub for some of the operations. But Brown, he stood trial, the evidence stacking like stolen pill bottles. In January 2025, the gavel fell, 209 months in federal prison. That's nearly 17 and a half years. Was it worth it? As he led away in cuffs, one could almost hear the echo of all those shattered pharmacy windows. The ring didn't just steal the drugs, they stole peace, these people's sense of security, from small town pharmacists who now, are going to sleep with one eye open, wondering if tonight's the night they get got again. And in the broader picture, their halls poured fuel on the opioid fire, turning diverted meds into basically street poison that could potentially claimed countless lives. Shifting our spotlight onto the sun-baked streets of California, let's go ahead and zoom in on the San Bernardino area. Burglaries from late 2023 to May 2024. San Bernardino, a sprawling inland empire city with warehouses, strip malls, and a history of hard knocks. Here, a crew operated like urban phantoms, favoring smash and grab tactics that left destruction in their wake. So, picture this, it's 2 a.m. on a foggy night. A stolen SUV backs up to a pharmacy door. The engine revs, tires screech, and bam! The door crumbles like a tinfoil. Masked figures pour in flashlights dancing across the shelves. They ignore the cough syrup and the vitamins, zeroing in on the locked cabinet that has the opioids, the benzos, and the stimulants, and thousands of dollars worth gone in minutes. So this wasn't a one-off. It was a series of hitting multiple independent pharmacies in the region. So they had an MO. Each strike caused chaos, broken glass, toppled displays, just a mess for the owners. The owners arriving at dawn to a scene of straight-up violation. The San Bernardino Police Department fought back with tech, releasing surveillance footage to the public, showing the hooded suspects stuffing bags with bottles. And they said, help us identify these individuals. They pleaded in press conferences. Tips trickled in, leading to arrests. Through the full roster of convictions is still unfolding in court documents. What made this prolific? The sheer repetition in a confined area. So turning San Bernardino into a cautionary tale for California's retail crime wave, pharmacists installed bars on windows, hired overnight guards, but the fear lingered. One owner told local news, it's not just the drugs they take, it's our sense of safety, like I said earlier. Now, for a story that hits home like a reoccurring nightmare, the saga of W&P Pharmacy in Pico Riviera, California. Pico Riviera, a working-class suburb east of LA, with Taquera's auto shops and this unassuming corner pharmacy that's been a community staple for years, but starting in March 2023, it became ground zero for thieves. The first hit, a clean break-in, alarm silenced, and boom, narcotics vanished. Owners shrugged it off as just bad luck, but they were bolstering security, and they came with a second and third hit. By 2025, there had been 5 burglaries in 18 months, but one vivid incident got a clear image of 3 masked men rammed through the door at dawn. They tore open the walls, they shattered the cases, and fled with $20,000 to $30,000 in Oxycontin and other heavy hitters. But the owners was a family-run operation. They poured out their hearts in interviews and said, we've been here for 20 years serving our neighbors, and now insurance is through the roof. And we're debating about closing the shop. Surveillance footage went viral locally, grainy figures and black bags bulging, but no arrests followed. But why the spot? Thieves knew the layout, the weak points. Once hit, it was like a marked card in a deck. And this tale isn't just about loss, it's about resilience, it's about fraying at the edges, and how repeated heists erode the fabric of small businesses in our country. In Pico Riviera, it whispers spread, they lock up tight that they're coming back, venturing into the glitz and grit of Los Angeles County. We encountered the 2023 robbery series, a string of armed holdups that added a layer of terror to the LA city of dreams and nightmares, where pharmacies dot every boulevard, and this crew did not sneak. They stormed at a Walgreens in Norwalk, guns blazing, guns drawn. They barked orders, opened the safe, hand over the narcotics. In January 2024, a smash and grab netted pills and cash. October 2023 saw another hit, $776 in pills plus iPhone swipe. That's not very big. And these were coordinated by hitting multiple spots, vehicles screeching away in traffic, and the LAPD and sheriff's deputies mobilized, piecing together witness accounts and dash cam footage. And on October 2023, brought breakthroughs where 3 suspects were cuffed, facing robbery charges, but the scars remained in the community, and employees with PTSD, customers weary of late-night pickups. This series stood out for its violence, and it's a stark reminder that pharmacy heists aren't abstract. They're human dramas with real stakes amid California's Proposition 47 debates, reducing penalties for some thefts. Critics pointed to these crimes as evidence of a system that has gone soft. Heading across the country to the Keystone State, let's go to Pennsylvania, baby, where armed robbery string from late 2019 to mid-2020 unfolds like a pandemic-era thriller. As COVID whispers turned into roars, pharmacies became lifelines, dispensing masks, tests, and meds. But these thieves, they saw opportunity. Across Pennsylvania, from Philly's bustling streets to Pittsburgh's hills, suspects struck with guns blazing and said, "Empty the register." Same MO as the other. "Give us the opioids," they demand, with their hearts pounding and the fluorescent lights glowed. The FBI jumped in, offering a $25,000 reward for these individuals that were armed and dangerous. So posters went up, tip lines buzzed, and arrests followed. Though details blur and redacted files, what elevates this is the timing amid global chaos hitting essential services felt almost like a betrayal. And it highlighted the vulnerabilities in the understaffed stores, the delayed response, all that played a factor the survivors shared. Stories of frozen terror that forever changed their lives. Our final chapter brings us to the concrete jungle, baby, to the Queens and Bronx area in New York. A burglary spree in 2026 in New York City, ever pulsing, saw a fresh wave aligning with the 620% burglary surge in January. Thieves Jimmy doors and cracked safes. They got cash, drugs, but NYPD footage shows hoodies and their full description. They fled into the subway with no arrests, but the hunt intensified. This ongoing saga reminds us that the story never ends. It evolves, wrapping our tale. These heists reveal a nation's struggle with addiction, inequality, and crime. Prevention rises, AI cameras, communities, patrols, but as long as the demand thrives, so will the shadows. Thanks for joining me on this episode. If it hooked you, please subscribe, share, give me a like, let me, in the comments, tell me about a heist from your town, and we'll get into it. Do me a favor, guys, stay vigilant, stay dangerous. This is Christian Whitlow signing off. I'll see you on the next one. Love y'all.